Perfect. Okay, so welcome everybody to The Magic is in the Numbers, featuring the lovely Geni Whitehouse, CPA. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Tanya Hilts. I am a CPD and AIA. And I'm here because I'm passionate about increasing knowledge. And you can find me at Tanya's Bootcamp on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. A little bit about myself. I am Intuit's last and reigning global firm of the future, named as Insightful Accountant Top 100 Pro Advisor 2018 through 2021, a level 5 certified mentor through the Mentor Plus program, where I also received my accredited impactful advisor designation, which is Geni's program. So that's awesome. A member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, a director of CPD Canada, and founder of Cloud Business Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. Then we have Geni with Geni Whitehouse. So would you like to take a moment and introduce yourself to everybody, Geni?
I am a CPA working with wineries in Napa Valley. I started a bookkeeping business for around QBO in 2014, also for wineries. I have a speaking business called Even a Nerd Can Be Heard. And I have this coaching company now called The Impactful Advisor, which is something I started during COVID to train more accounting folk so they could make an impact for clients. And I'm thrilled and honored to be here with Tanya, with Sharon Lee, and with David, all three of my favorite wonderful people. So thank you, Tanya.
Awesome. Anytime, Geni. I truly believe in you and what you have to say in your program and all of that. So I'm happy to support and help you spread the word as much as possible. So then we have co-panelist David Pankwich. So David, would you like to take a moment and introduce yourself?
Yes, so some of you on the program already know me, but I'm a founder of a CPA firm. We work with small business owners either in person or virtually across Canada. Most of our clients are in Ontario, and we offer the full range of public accounting services. In the last couple of years, we've had the pleasure of working with independent professional bookkeepers to provide an all-in-one solution for small business owners to make it a triple win for the client, the independent bookkeeper, and our firm. And Tanya has benefited from sharing in that partnership with us as well as others have. But we saw the great value over the last couple of years to move into a framework of advisory services. And so I'm excited to talk about the program that I'm in with Geni that has helped us to move the needle forward on that.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thank you for taking the time to be here to support Geni today. And then we have Sharon Lee Mathers. So Sharon Lee, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am the founder of Balsam Way, and I work with breweries, getting into the winery and spirits or the mixed drink market, specifically here in BC. And starting to expand out to, it looks like, Ontario. So breweries, and Geni can, say the same thing about wineries. They're three businesses in one, right? So you've got manufacturing, then you've got sales, your front of house or back of house or your, winery. And then you've got online sales, merchandise, all that. So it's really exciting to work in an industry that has a lot of variety, but that industry is still in its infancy and growing lots. The brewery, craft brewery, that is. And so there's lots of new business owners that kind of think, first, they're not sure of what their numbers are because they don't understand, well, what do you mean I've got profit here? And it's like, oh, you've got profit, but there's the reason there's nothing in your bank is because it paid all your loans. And now here's these things we need to look at, but what's your goals and what are you looking at? So that's how I've been benefiting mainly a lot with from taking the course. I was with Tanya as the first ones, and it was great, absolutely great. It's helped me gain some confidence a bit. As a benefit.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. So I do like to start out with a quote. I like to look for something that's unique to the topic. So this really spoke to me. So effective consulting is about gathering and presenting actionable data and helping businesses solve problems, implement solutions, and innovate. And that was by Hendrith Vanlin Smith Jr., who is a managing partner at Mayflower Plymouth. And that really spoke to me because I thought, yeah, that's it here. And it is about being effective, not efficient. It's being effective. And it's, again, taking that data, the numbers, and this is where, Jeannie's going to say the magic is in the numbers, taking the data and using the data to help them solve their problems, implement solutions, and innovate. So first off, this webinar does qualify for CPD credits. We are going to be having 3 polls. 2 of the 3 must be answered in order to, any 2, but must be answered in order to be able to receive your CPD credits. And the recording of the webinar along with your CPD credits will be emailed out from bootcamp@mycbs.ca will be the email address that it'll come from, and it'll be out by Friday afternoon. So if you don't have it by the weekend, check your spam because it could have gone to your spam. So make sure to check there. And if there's any issues, just reach out. So we'll start talking about this, and then I'll bring up the first poll right after this. But so how do we define advisory services? So let's go with yourself, Sharon Lee, first. How do you define advisory services?
Well, as a bookkeeper, right, where everybody thinks it's just, plugging the numbers in. For me, it's become anything but compliance. And that leaves it really broad, but it's looking at all different areas of the business. So for me, my biggest area that I spend time in is with apps. And looking at doing that assessment of what are you using, what do you need, and how can we make this all work together to get you the information that you need. So that for me is the biggest thing that I do. But yeah, it's looking at the future, all those kind of things. But yeah, anything but compliance in my brain.
Right. And you know what? I actually I wouldn't have been able to define it several years ago since COVID hit. And working with Geni all at the same time, it really hit me that it is anything that's not compliant. A question, if you're giving them advice, it is advisory services. I thought because, the apps and everybody else, that it had to be this, but I couldn't see what that was and I couldn't touch it. And so therefore I was quite intimidated by it. But that's how I now define it. Absolutely. As well. And David, how is it that you define advisory services?
So similar to Sherry Lee, if it's not compliance. So in my world, similar to Jeannie's background, in the public accounting space, you have your financial statements, your corporate tax return, your personal tax return, tax planning. But outside of that, helping a business owner grow a more profitable business, that opens up a large venue of possibilities. And so as Sherry Lee and as you mentioned, Tanya, it's a very vast area that you can lead into.
And I think something, that just hit me is, in the accounting profession, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a bookkeeper, because we've got both, we've got 2 accountants, 2 bookkeepers on the call here. But in the accounting industry, we're used to dealing with numbers. 1 + 1 always equals 2. It's black or it's white. Like that's it. There's no in between. Advisory services, I think, is all gray. It's a nice gray area, which kind of overlaps it all. So it's not, specifically defined. So just a quick reminder, poll is up. That's great. Everybody's responded to this poll. So I'm just going to share this and then we're going to hear Jeannie's answer to that. So the first poll was, are you currently offering advisory services? 63% said yes, 30% said no, and 27% aren't sure. And that, again, it looks at how you define advisory services, but I don't think there's an actual definition. I now can see I was offering advisory services before. I just didn't call it that because, again, I didn't know what that definition was. So hopefully through this call, you guys will be able to figure that out and, make this easier for you. So Geni, how do you define advisory services?
Well, to me, it's pretty simple. It's really based on what our clients need. And I just have a couple of give you slides to share. I mean, this is what our clients have. They have more numbers than they know what to do with, right? And many people think advisory is just coming in and coming up with some metric or measure or counting something, and then we can add value. But the numbers aren't the problem. We have enough numbers. What we need is insights from the numbers. And our clients are trying to figure out, first, timely. They're trying to make fast decisions. And if COVID showed us anything, it was how critical those fast decisions were, right, you guys? I mean, we didn't have time to figure everything out, and we had to go forward with clients and help them apply for different relief programs and do all of that stuff. And these people are sitting there desperate to figure out what to do. Do we keep our employees? Do we close down? What do we do? And it's taking those numbers and finding the insights, which is what you've all three shared, and helping them make better decisions. That's what this is about. And it doesn't have to have a label on it to be advisory, but we want to avoid, David and Sharon Lee and Tanya, the thing that we all did, which was what we call in Mentor Plus lingo, random acts of consulting. We do one thing because the client asked for it, and then the next client asks for something different, and we don't get better at it. We don't get systematic about it, and we can't really grow in our expertise. And what this program does is really give us a structure we can apply over and over again, and the confidence, as you've all shared, to really know that if something happens, we can help a client figure out where their challenges really are and what they need to do. So as advisors, and I think accountants or anybody who does numbers, I don't think there's a bookkeeper versus an accountant that's a different category. To me, accountants are people who count stuff, y'all, and who hold people accountable for achieving the numerical goals that they set in place. So we're all accountants, we're all counting something, and we're all accountable to our clients at the end of the day. Our challenge is at the same time that the time is flying out the window, and so is the value for us. And so what we're trying to do as advisors is really tap into the value and optimize our own time so that we can generate the value for the incredible work that we do. And it's one of the things that we all do as service professionals, I think, is give away our time when it's a very limited resource. And so if you think about advisory traditionally, this is what it was. This is Dilbert saying, we're all pretending to add value. He wrote a whole book on that, which it's comic strips along that line. People think advisors are people who claim to have all the answers and come in and tell people what to do and then disappear. Well, this is the opposite of that. What we're trying to do is be the people who ask the clients different questions so that they can find their own way to the insights that they have. I've never come up with anything in a client situation that wasn't just confirming what they already knew. If you think about it. But what we do is give them supporting data and information that confirms that what they think they know is actually valid. So that's the role that we play as advisors. We're not the experts. We're not the answer people. We don't have to be that. And I think all of you, Tanya, Sharon Lee, and David would agree. That's the biggest relief you got in going through this is I don't have to show up with the answers, right, David?
That's right. We support, we foster, we facilitate rather than provide the answers.
And that's a big switch. And that's what holds us back, I believe, as accountants, is we think we got to know everything before we can even ask a question. And instead, we rely on our clients, who in fact are the experts in their business. They're the ones who've mortgaged their homes for those businesses, not us. And so it's these questions that we ask. But the big thing that we want to do, and the reason I think the numbers are magic, and this is something I've always believed. I love geometry. I love math in all of its forms. And the magic is that we can move the needle on things. We can connect people to profit by showing them different things they can measure and count. And so the magic happens when we connect those numbers to behavioral shifts and actions at the front lines in companies. And that's what everything we do in the training is about. And it comes back to this formula that Edie came up with called the profit equation. And it's a shift from revenue minus expenses equal profit to this: people times process equals profit. So it's people doing things consistently that drives the profit in the business. And when we can help those owners identify these things in the middle that we need to count, that can control the outputs, that's when we can move the needle on their business. And that's when we elevate ourselves from a value perspective. This is the stuff people want. This is what I wanted to do. It's why I started. It's why I left the CPA firm as a tax person after 15 years of being in the profession and finally getting to partner. And the day I made partner, I went, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to make a difference for clients. And I think that's what all of us ultimately are trying to do. So that's my definition, a little bit long-winded, but And I get all on my soapbox,
It's,
but it's
very
it's
true.
time, you guys, to do it.
Yep. And I think the one thing that I've learned about it is, and that was kind of that, really showed me I was already doing advisory services, is because we have the knowledge. Every single one of us out there watching, we have it. We just might not have the confidence. We are now have gone from bookkeepers and accountants. Let's just call us accounting professionals. We just do different things in there, but we're all accounting professionals. So we have gone from being accounting professionals to now being able to, now that we have the data in real time that can come in, we are now accounting professionals. They're tech people, because we need to know all the different softwares that come in and all their different, what could potentially go wrong, how to, again, work with that. So as well as business consultants. And the funny thing is, they say bookkeepers, let's just say the people doing the day-to-day bookkeeping, a lot of our clients don't see the value and put that lower down on there. But even if we do, an average in there, say that, how much do people pay their computer tech guy? Most of them don't even question to pay their computer tech people more. Now this area, no, my computer tech guy, I keep telling him he needs to charge more, because I charge a higher hourly rate than he does. And I keep trying to get him pushed up, but there's that. And then there's the fact that there's business consultants. People have no problem paying their business consultant $250 an hour. We have this knowledge and we know how to better tie the numbers into it, because we have a different viewpoint than with our training that we've gone through than a regular business consultant can do. They can't get into it the same way that we can. They're going to do it differently, but this is what our role has come to. And, those of us who do want to do this, and we can make changes, big changes in our clients' lives and their businesses, and just help that go along. And it's with really, I think, thinking outside of the general accounting box. Again, you think of accounting professionals, we're boxed in. If we realize that there is no box, or take the lid off, and we can do what we want with that and all of that. So anyway, yes, so that's great.
Jump on that there for a second. One of the things, you said just basic, whatever, we're boxed in bookkeeping, and clients need to know stuff. So one of the biggest services that I've been doing has been chart of account analysis. And it's like, are you getting the information you need? Boom, you got sales in. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you how much you're selling wholesale? Does that tell you how much you're selling in your tap room? Does that tell you how much you're selling online? Do you know? So for me, that's one of the big things I'm doing. And I get these like, oh, okay, now this starts to make sense, because they just see sales and there's these numbers and they don't know where to pull or what to be looking at. And when I do that, it also then helps their accountant to be able to look at and say, does this make sense? I mean, usually I say it beforehand, but then they just reaffirm and say, your cost of goods, like that margin, is that enough? But then it's also taking a look at that and talking about their processes. Exactly what Geni said, is people times process. And do you actually have a documented process? So these are things as bookkeepers, they don't tend to think we do. The chart of account analysis is what kind of creeps me in to allow them to look at other things and then say, is this documented? How are you doing it? So if everybody is taking so long to do this, can we shorten it up and get that process and then look at it?
Well, and it'll make it easier, I would think, even for the accountants that don't really get into that detail, because if we're bookkeepers, the difference, I mean, we all know this, but the difference accountants and bookkeepers really is what we're looking at. We just look at different things in a different way. Bookkeepers, we're in the day-to-day detail, accountants for the most part. And sometimes, we go and look at the other way, but the accountant is most of the time, the big picture and the overview, and sometimes digs in, right? Like to the detail. So we do, it's just the way that we look at it. But you're right. If we are at this level doing that chart of analysis and doing that, when it gets to the accountant, we're doing a little bit of advisory. The accountant now has different information that they can look at to go a little bit more into advisory on their side of, what we have. And so it's just a beautiful, like it works together. So it's not like one person is taking away from the accountant or whatnot. Again, we're looking at it in different ways, and we're going to be able to come up with different things for the client, and ultimately what they do with that, that's the client's decision, right? As to what they do with that information.
I would add that I think the bookkeeping community is far more proactive in looking for solutions to solve real pain points of clients. And I'm a CPA, and David, this is nothing against David, but traditional CPAs, and there are many CPAs who are doing bookkeeping as well. So we have firms that are doing both. But if you're just doing the traditional tax and financial statement work, you are not connected to the pain and suffering that's really happening at the client level.
Yes.
And I saw this, and I was speaking to just CPA events for the beginning of my career when I started speaking in 2000. And CPAs didn't really understand what the clients were doing at the transactional level. And the bookkeepers were in there. And then I started speaking at bookkeeping events, and bookkeepers are out there actively trying to find solutions to client day-to-day challenges, like how do I meet payroll if I don't have cash? And how do I know what's happening with my cash flow next month? And how do I run my own payroll? And how do I get data out of my point of sale system and all that stuff? So the bookkeeping community, the transactional stuff, and that's why I started a bookkeeping company, because I went, this is where it happens. This is where the needles are there to move. The levers that I can push are happening day to day in the firefighting that's going on in these clients. And I want to help with that. And yes, I want to structure the book so that the tax stuff is right, but we need to shift the focus to that stuff. And I'm seeing far more proactive bookkeepers coming forward and doing these things than the 20 years of talking to CPAs about it. It took a long time for them to get it, and still they're finding it. So I think the opportunity is there. And I think the bookkeeping profession is going to make much of what traditional accounting firms do obsolete. And the people like David who are doing it in conjunction with that, but we can't just live up in the ivory tower tax file anymore. We got to get down to the nitty gritty to make a difference. Would you agree with that?
The thing is, it's fun.
It is.
It's enjoyable, you know, to be involved because you're collaborating with the business owner. I mean, when you think of the variety of topics a business owner deals with, you can be involved in all those very same topics as an advisor by taking this program. You get introduced to all the subject matter that a typical business owner would consider. And so your life is varied. The business owner, their industry, the problem they're having, their future goals, they can be varied. So it opens up a very fulfilling opportunity to add to what you may already be doing.
Absolutely. And it's not something that, again, you don't have to sit there and worry about, stepping on the accountant's toes and this and that, because again, we look at it differently. We're doing different things with it, right? I mean, again, it's just, again, which level are you looking at? And, Suzanne put in there, the nurse to the doctor, absolutely. Again, the doctor comes in, he deals with the high level, he goes out, but you're right. If we're putting out the fires, we're the firemen, because we're there at the time the fire is happening. The accountant can come in after, do again, the forecasting, and then there's the different things. But they're going to be looking at it again from a different angle that we're at. So that it's, again, we're working together, and who's it helping? It's helping the client better. And, again, it's, Suzanne said that the accountants that we work with does make a huge difference. And I agree. I 100% agree. The traditional accountants who, old school traditional accountants who are not going to work with the bookkeeper and get a good relationship with the bookkeeper, and, or that are sticking to just the tax and compliance, they're now the transactional person. We're the ones that are being called for the day-to-day advice. I mean, David and I, we have multiple clients and we work together with this. He offers things that is not in my expertise. I offer things that, again, I can look at the moment, and handle, and, it works well, and we communicate, which has reminded me, I forgot to do my update, but we should be done by the end of this week, on all the files on that one client, who I'm talking with, David, but it's, it's the communication and then working together, and we do it very, very well, work together so the clients get the best of everything.
I'm going to add here, I think that the ability to offer different things but complement, so exactly what Susan said, the the nurse to the doctor. So a perfect example is recently I'm dealing with a company that wanted to buy their building. And the accountant was looking at things that I pulled together, the financial, the flow, the here's where it is, the cash, there's this. So I did that piece and they looked at it and did the whole tax part of it. And okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to restructure this. So the client got a really nice experience, right? From me going, yeah, okay, so this is what the rent is. When you purchase it, it's going to go this way. The accountant ended up going, we're actually going to move this into a holding company instead. And here's how we're going to handle this. You know, so it allowed that nice flow instead of the accountant trying to determine from the numbers and looking back through things, which they can do, but it gave the client more confidence by having two of us reaffirm and work, you know, up that together.
Yeah.
So there was some commentary in the chat that I just have to speak to, which is this whole trusted business advisor thing. The AI CPA, the CPA profession used to be CA in Canada. We're all now CPAs. We all got that extra letter to make us feel better. Sort of took that term, trusted business advisor, and made it their brand. And to me, we never lived up to it as CPAs. And I did a whole thing called the rusted business advisor. And accountants traditionally didn't know about technology. We were the last people to move to online cloud applications. We fought change. We did all this stuff. And we lost our edge as trusted advisors. And I don't think the profession lived up to it. And Edie calls it trusted accounting technicians, which is what we were as a traditional community of the CPA folks who did the tax and the financial statements. We were rule followers. And where bookkeepers, again, really had the edge is trying to figure out how to make things better for clients. And being in a firm that didn't have a bookkeeping unit, we got more calls for that service than we did for the traditional tax and financial statement stuff. And I kept going, we got to fix this. This is where the fires are and the suffering is happening. And we're not getting in there till the end of the year and saying, okay, you made these numbers or you didn't. And we need to bridge the gap from starting transactional stuff all the way to whatever financial statement or tax return we're creating. And it all matters, but there's much more opportunity for us and much more impact, which is, again, my company's called the Impactful Advisor, because I want to teach people who can make a difference with clients. I don't want to just teach people who can walk around with a bunch of concepts in their head and never do anything. And what matters to me is that we can make an impact for those clients. And I think that's why we're in this profession. In whatever way we're messing with the numbers, it's about doing something and helping those small businesses succeed and stay in business and power the engine of the economy around the world. I think we're so valuable.
And if just to kind of, confirm what you just said, Geni, is in talking to people afterwards and the Firm in the Future contest that we won, that actually made a lot of difference. Now, I didn't realize I was doing advisory at that time, but I've always worked with my clients because my background is customer service and not necessarily accounting. So, in Bootcamp, that's exactly, I'm like, bring it back to service. It's the relationship. And that's what people are starting to see now. So I've been saying that for years and been doing that. And I think that's what really actually, when I talk to people, that's what really made a difference, is because it's that connection, right? And that's exactly what we're doing now, having that connection with our clients and tying the numbers in to that to help them. Now, what do you guys think is holding people back from offering advisory services? So I'll just go first then. I think it's the fear. It's the intimidation and not really knowing what it is and thinking, oh, I'm not an advisor. I don't have this designation. I'm not an accountant. If somebody is, always had an accountant doing that, I think, and it's unrealistic. Not to the person feeling it, but those I think are the perceived barriers that I see. So then, Sherry, you had your hand up. So
I said immediately, the first thing is, from the bookkeeping profession angle, is confidence. And labeling it, because exactly what Geni said, the accountant stole that, advisor term and took that. So it's now that kind of belongs to accountants. We can't do advisory, right? So it's now going, okay, I don't have the confidence. I don't, this is an accountant function. I shouldn't do this. I'm not an accountant. As somebody who worked in an accounting firm, it's even more so for me because accountants are in an accounting firm up here and the support staff is below the level in many. So that to me exactly is part of it, but also not recognizing. And once you recognize, and that's part of the thing that Geni really brought out is I've been doing it all anyways. I just didn't call it that. And I was giving it away for free.
That's the thing. We're
Yeah.
also undervaluing the amazing work that we do. And that's what really gets me angry. I just really want people to get the value because the stuff we do is life changing. These people can't function without us keeping the wheels on the bus.
Well,
So I want people to get
what
the
I
value.
find, sorry, I was going to say, what I find really interesting is the clients that I do work with, every now and then they're calling me an accountant. Oh, hold on, let me speak to my accountant because I've been giving that information. So it's that is from like the non-CPA view. That's what I think it comes down to. And it's just recognizing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the one thing, you know, that you said too, and then we'll get David's opinion on this too, is it's kind of like what we say, you know, people in boot camp, you know, people are like, oh, you know, thank you, you know, whatever, you did this. And like, you know what? No, I didn't do it. And I know Geni and I are very similar with this. It's like those ruby slippers. You had them with you all the time. You just had to click and say, take me home type of thing. It's within you. You just don't realize it's within you. And, you know, that's the confidence level of it. And yeah, it's Geni definitely brought out, you know, the confidence monster in me too.
One of the things that we all struggle with is pricing, and that came up in the chat, and that's one of the things that we talk about in the training. We gain the confidence to price for what we're doing. Again, when you see a client go, oh my God, I've never heard an accountant, and again, accountant, I'm doing it broad. We're counting, y'all. We're counting. I'll call you accountants or something.
We're all accounting professionals.
Counting stuff. We're dealing with debits and credits, and I don't care what you call it. So I don't want you guys to, there's just not buckets of us. We're just all nerdy numbers folk. We're all magicians turning numbers into magic, into outcomes, into insights, into stories. Those numbers we produce on this financials tell a story of the business. To me, that's magic. And so we have to communicate it. But the pricing thing is one that we all struggle with. I always undervalued the hours that I spent. No matter what I did, I would keep track of my time in the CPA firm. I would write down stuff because I thought I was too dadgum slow at it. And so I never priced really hourly. I priced for value, but it was always below what I spent. So I never value priced upwards. I always rolled it down. And we have to get over that. But when you see a client go, oh my gosh, now I get it, you don't have the value conversations anymore. The first document you get in level 1 starts to change the dialogue with any prospective new client, and you don't have to pitch price. It changes everything. I mean, I couldn't believe how easy it is now because you've already set the expectation differently. And you've also learned how to screen out the clients that you don't want to work with, which is a huge part of what we do. And I built a business in Atlanta, and I took every client that I could when I started my own firm, and I didn't want to charge them. So I had a great nonprofit unintentionally. But that's what we do. We've got to get over that. What we do matters. And if you're doing a bunch of work for low value and you're frustrated by it, and you don't want to work with those clients because they're not paying you what you're worth and what you need to live, it's time to step back and think differently.
Yeah, somebody else will see your value. Absolutely. And so David, yes. So what's your opinion on that? Like, what do you think is holding people back from offering advisory?
So I agree with everything that's been shared. And one might have to do with the confidence aspect is you have all this knowledge, you have all this wisdom, all this expertise to share. What tool are you going to use? And what framework or system are you going to use to roll out that type of service? How are you going to package it? What it's going to look like? How are you going to start the conversation? What type of funnels are you going to have with different services that are under this umbrella advisory? And so that's what I like about Geni's program is there's 5 levels to the program. You don't have to be, you know, you don't want to expect that you'll be at Geni's level overnight, right? But you start with level 1, and you know, level 2 was a little bit of what Sharon Lee was talking about, is the chart of accounts analysis. So if you use each one of these levels systematically over time, you can constantly add tools, add services, but you start. And you can lean into it with what Sharon Lee mentioned, doing a chart of account analysis, making the numbers meaningful, not just for CRA, but for the business owner. And so, by doing it that way, you lean into it. So after the first two levels, then you say, okay, now I'm ready to do some forward-looking work with the client. Level 3, level 4 helps set up some processes to measure. Level 5, continually improving. I know Geni would explain this better than I can, but what I'm trying to do is just link how this has building blocks. So you don't have to be intimidated by this advisory piece. Just start. Take the first step. Add that to your skill set and develop from there.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It was amazing to me. And David is in, and I think I've done 7 cohorts, and those are group training sessions that go over a 6-month period where I coach people through the material. So they have online training access for a year. And then the first 6 months, I walk through them over weekly in most groups. We set the time based on the group that we convene. And David came in the group. It was about 11 folks initially in that group. And I remember David in one of the earliest classes coming on, and David has done everything. I mean, David, all these folks, and Tanya and Sharon Lee, they've all taken all this different training. They've tried all kinds of different programs. They've done all this stuff. And so, I had a concern that's, what can I teach you guys that you don't already know? And David came in one of the first classes, and we always start by sharing what we have to celebrate from the last time we were together. And David came in early and said something like, I've already taken one of the tools and it's already made a difference in the way that I work with clients. And that was the best thing I've ever felt from, okay, this stuff does matter and you can change it, even if you know a bunch of other things. And somebody asked me about the traction methodology. There's profit first. There's all these methodologies that are out there for different things. This is the only training that says, here's what you do with clients. You start here, you do this, here's a presentation you show, here's what you're going to get back, here's how you do the measurements, it's everything you do to work with clients. That's all it's focused on. What do we do to move the needle on that client business? And all those other things are great, but there's stuff you can add by taking a different perspective. And that's what was really encouraging from all of you folks that are here, from Tanya and Sharon Lee and David. Yes, there are things that you didn't get in all of those other programs that you've already been exposed to. Would you agree, David?
Yeah, so what I like about this training is it helps you put it all together, helps you organize it, like that scope grid. I keep coming back to that scope grid because it's such an effective way of starting the conversation and basically giving the client, the prospect, the vision that we're going to do more for you than just this. We can do this for you over time. So then they start to see us, as you folks have already mentioned, in a different light. You're really going to be adding value, not just doing something that has to be done, but doing something we want you to do. And the value that comes from that, helping a business grow more profitably in so many different ways, is often much more valuable to a client than, well, your books and records are right. For CRA. No, how can we build the vision that you have for your business, for your family? How can you have more time for them? How can you grow it more profitably? How can you make smarter decisions? That's the goal. Well, that's what the business owner really is looking for.
And I think when the business owner realizes, like you hit the nail right on the head there, David, I think when they realize we're in the trenches with them, they're not shipping us stuff that we're doing stuff like, in the back office. Right. We're in the trenches with them, trying to help them do that. In the scope grid, like I love. And the one thing that I found, and I still have not used even probably a quarter of the tools that I have, but I know what's in my toolbox. I know I have things. And I think part of the confidence with me has come from, again, having a tool, knowing I can pull a tool out that will start that conversation naturally. And again, there's like the scope grid, which Geni has shown on many of her webinars And I think it was really scary when I first started to use it. And I now use that in my coaching. I use it with clients. I use it when I'm coaching accounting professionals, and it really digs in and it shows where the fires are that need putting out. And then we can sit there and work with them. And just knowing I've got a tool that I can pull out and use gives me that confidence. And even if we want to still call it a fake confidence, because yes, we everybody's talked, we still have imposter syndrome. And there are some times, especially if I'm coaching somebody else in the accounting industry who has maybe, been in it longer than me, I do feel very intimidated, at times, or when I'm, coaching with a CPA or something, it's, there's always that. But again, knowing I have these tools and I'm going to follow them gives me that fake confidence. And very quickly, that confidence just kind of goes away, because then I'm just right into what I'm doing. I'm not even thinking about it. And it's just, again, a natural progression. So yeah, these are some of the tools that we've gained. It's a whole heck of a lot.
But, yeah, I was just going to say that's exactly where taking that scorecard, the tool there, then it's like, okay, what are your goals for the future? What are you looking at? What do you need to see? And that is where I start going, okay, now we do our chart of account analysis, change that so that you can see those numbers there. But then it's like, okay, what apps are you using? So that takes me to that whole next level. There's an app thing in here as well, doing the apps. So then it's like, okay, are these giving you the numbers? Can you see this? And will that be able to take you further into the future to then that next level 4? Are you getting all this? So yeah, no, it's great. And having that tool, exactly as you said, Tanya, having that there to pull out instead of suddenly feeling, what should I be asking? Or what do they need? And again, this takes us right back to the client is then giving the answers and not us giving the answers. It's like, what's your ideal outcome there for operations? Well, I want to be able to see where all my money is. So that when I have to pay out for bottles, I need to know what's going to be coming out in another area, or whether we've got this. So it allows you, okay, that's what you need to see from your operations, what people are helping you, what's going on. And you can be able to tie that and go, here we go.
Absolutely. And I think the mind shift kind of went, because again, we're as bookkeepers, from the bookkeeping side of things, we are kind of trained for compliance. And this is using this and asking those questions is a way to shift our mindset from, the compliance to, again, what do the clients need? Because we think the clients need compliance. That's not what they need. That's what the government needs. And that is part of what they need, but that is not all that they need. They need more. And this really helps with that mind shift to really help us get over that speed bump or, wall or whatever it is that we've got in between us, to start having that conversation, because we, again, either have answers, have ideas, have places that we can send clients to. We have that knowledge. It's all in here, and it's all in here.
I think it's also pulling it out.
Yeah,
from the client. They have that knowledge too.
Absolutely.
They're exactly what Geni said. They're front of the line. They know their business better than we do.
Yeah.
So I was working with a client and he's like, I think that these employees we let go were skimming. And I'm like, why is that? And he says, because we actually have money in the safe now. And I'm like, good, because this is what I'm seeing also in your books. But then they can see, okay, so here's what's happening, operations, here's what's happening, and now they can start to look and start to ask the questions. Okay, so how much should our manpower be to what our sales are? And so it just leads gracefully up to asking those questions. And okay, but this is somebody else's manpower and this is the statistic, but what does your business have? Do you have your front of house person also doing four jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that was really powerful that we get in there, but you can still Google it to see little bits of it, but it's Toast Kaizen. That video was very, very eye-opening for me as to how we do this. And it's just somebody who makes he makes toast for his wife. And it's how you can break that down. So when you're getting into, is it a people issue? Is it a process issue? And all the time, it always boils back to a process issue. So just a little hint, even if you ask, is it people or is it process? It's always process. You know, maybe it's a hiring process. Maybe you're hiring the wrong people for the wrong jobs or something like that. But yeah, the Kaizen, yeah, small impacts make a big change. In seeing that Toast Kaizen video, again, it was like, oh, okay. It was my light bulb moment because I was still very intimidated, even going through this, and intimidated to get to some of these other levels and some of that other stuff. And that just, it simplified it. And it really, really opened it up, and it's absolutely changed everything. So then my next thing to go out to, like David and Sharon Lee, and you've probably already answered this because I had 2 questions there and I'm like, oh, we've kind of already answered them, 2 extra ones. So I'm going to do the next poll right now while we're answering this question, but it's what has, you know, the course that you took through Geni, like, and going into the advisory services, what was the biggest difference, I think, on your before and your after to the way, whether it be something, the way you looked at advisory services, whether it was like a specific tool, just a thought process, what did you think has made the biggest difference for your clients and you? So David, let's start with you first.
So I'm going to go back to that scope assessment, a scope analysis. Basically, now whenever a prospect connects with me, my ideal client is a business owner that wants to have discussions, wants to collaborate, wants to have this type of advisory support. So, and then I use the scope assessment, I have that in my quiver now, so that when I am speaking to a prospect, I talk to them about, you know, how can we help? I can use this tool to help them see the scope of work, scope of value, scope of services that we can help. So as was mentioned before, we're not giving the client the answer as to what their ideal outcome is. They're the ones who are going to tell us that. They're the ones who are going to tell us their strengths, their weaknesses. And then that starts to give us a roadmap of areas that we can now have a further conversation on. And that gives us a roadmap of services well into the future to help them. So I found this to be a game changer, because rather than saying, show me your financial statements and tax returns from last year, no, this is the breadth of services we can offer. What would you like assistance with? And so it changes the conversation completely.
Exactly. And this is a conversation. It's a piece of paper, but this is a conversation. So if you guys get nothing else out of this, hopefully you can get this. It's, again, you ask the client on the financial aspect, their customers, their operations, their people, which would mean their team, and their end goal. What are their strengths, their weaknesses, and their ideal outcome with each one, right? So it's beautiful, and it's a conversation. And that's what makes that beautiful. So I'm going to stop the poll. So I'm going to actually give 5 more seconds for anybody to answer here. 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Okay, so we're going to share the results real quick. And then it's 50-50. 50% are still intimidated by advisory services. And I get that. And it's something I'm still intimidated. You know, but again, pulling out that tool and that scope grid, that is my first part of the conversation, and it just flows naturally from there. And that was, again, that is the tool that I use all the time. So Sharon Lee, what's your?
Don't use the word advisory services. I don't say that.
That'll make James happy here. He said he's sick of that too. And yes, it's absolutely.
I don't say that. It's like, okay, here's how I can help you. So again, you go to that scope grid. What's your end in mind? And again, it's returning back. Oh, wait a second. You are creating a brewery because you want this to be a family business and you want something for your kids. Or, you know, okay, how old are they? Are you sure they want this? Okay, but then here's how we look at planning. Do you want to look at, and this is something I sent it off to an accountant, and the accountant was blown away of like, okay, here's what they want. Here's how we're going to focus the books. But now they can also look at exactly leaving that legacy. So I'm asking questions and not calling it advisory.
Yeah.
and
we don't either. Like again, when I invited Sherry onto the webinar, she's like, oh, I hate that word term advisory, but there's nothing else I can think of to call it right now. But you're right. With clients, we don't call it that. I call it, they get a monthly meeting with me.
it's a service. I just like, here's
just
the
a service.
services. It's what David said. Here's the services. Here's what I can do. And I slowly, because people come to me with the thought of, I just need my bookkeeping from my accountant, to, is this making sense? Are you getting what you need? So what are you looking for? What is that end in mind? I don't tend to get into a lot of the operations or people, stuff like that, but I bring it in very slowly. Exactly as I said. Oh, you have more money in the safe. Yep. This is what I've been seeing as well. And this is what, and it's just bringing those. Okay. So people, so what does that mean? Do we not have a process that's pulling this out enough? So, and we learned between him and I that our process was not clear enough. To see that, because of the way they were moving money around. But exactly, this is, you can chat with somebody and it's super quick. You kind of pull these in like that, and then they go, oh, okay, here's what I've got.
And you know what, existing clients, and there is a link to this. Jeannie's put the link to this. So thank you, Jeannie, to exactly what she's got here. So you can just download that and have that. But yeah, this is even existing clients. Turn around, have this conversation with them, bring some stuff up, maybe have a meeting with them, say, hey, I can help with them, have a once a month meeting for 3 months, again, give them ideas, help them with this for them to be able to make those changes, and then turn around and say, you know what, did you like that? Was that helpful? If we want to continue with that, X number of dollars a month, and we can add this in regularly. We did it for 3 months, just whichever. So it's just your time on this. But again, this can help give the insight so that maybe you can upsell them to that. And don't call it advisory, call it a monthly meeting, call it a quarterly meeting, a check-in, whatever you want to call it.
Financial health check.
A conversation.
A diagnostic. Call it whatever you want, but this is a great way to go in and upsell. And that's what I'm doing with my existing clients. I'm going back to some of them saying, you know what, hey, we're not really involved in this. It's just compliance. You know what, let's do this. And I do it first. And then I say to them, okay, you know what, this is something new that I'm doing. Yeah, I gave it to you free for 3 months, or tell them up front, hey, this is something that I'm building. I'd like to use you and as a better word than a guinea pig, but a test subject or whatever, to test this with me and get feedback. Your client will be like, oh, great, I can help you. You're helping me. It's free. And then you can ask them at the end, like, what was the value of that? And that'll kind of help you price it. And it's going to be different value to different people. But that's a great way in with existing clients to try to upsell them on something like this. So Jeannie, did you have anything to add as you're typing in?
I'm just messing around with the grid while you all have it, but please take advantage of this, copy it, share it, use it. It's a great way to do it. When you're meeting with a client, you can just be typing in what they say and they can see it. They can type in there. You can have teams do it. I use this document to convene team meetings. I want to say that the opportunity to get in front of clients when we can communicate differently is a huge one. I just had a client call me yesterday. They want me to come on site and train their teams. And I said, in what? What are we trying to do? And they said, we have a new staff, a group of 4 people who are all new to accounting. The existing accountant that I've worked with for 10 years is retiring. And we want you to come in and level set for the team again, look at communication skills across the group. And then I said, and I'm going to show the toast video, Tanya. It's going to be one of the things that I start with to show them the impact of making small changes in the business and also looking at what we've done for 10 years with the fresh set of eyes, which is what we're going to do. We have a new team, and now let's step back and reevaluate all the things that we've been doing in our accounting department and see if there's some opportunities to automate and improve. And these are things, you guys, that we know how to do. We can say there's a tool for this, there's a tool for that. And it's not just about the tool, but in many cases, they don't even know what exists out there. They're not getting informed like we are about all the new things that make life better for those clients. And so there's a huge opportunity around that.
Absolutely. So I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. I'm just going to take over screen sharing here for a moment. I am going to share the last thing. So Geni does have, again, this program that we're, I guess, Sherry and I are graduates from, and David is almost graduating from it, very close to it, I believe. But she's got another cohort coming up. So I'm going to pop up the third poll question right now. Geni, do you just want to tell everybody a little bit about the program?
So the new program, the new group training option, and I have different options. You can just buy the level 5 training online, and you can do that on your own if you want. And that's called just the DIY program. But the program I have, the assisted learning, where we get a group together and go through the materials for 6 months, is called the 555 cohort. It's going to be on May 5th. It's the 5th cohort I've rolled out this year. And it's really, for me, about the magic in the numbers. That's why I do what I do, because I really believe that. I think there's magic in numbers, and 555 is a magical number. It represents change and opportunity. And so I think it's the perfect time to launch this class. And I have a special discount in effect right now for that. And it's a $5,000, 5555 is the price. It's normally a $6,000 training program. And I'm also adding an extra 5% off of that. And it's on my site. I put the link in for the services page that describes all the different program options. I set them up as subscription pricing, so you don't have to pay a big chunk at once. But this one, if you click on that, it's a 6-month program. It's 11-11-11, which is also a magic number, for 5 months. I have an offer for 5% off if you use this code, and it will work for any level of program. If you can't afford that amount, if you need to work out some sort of special thing, I'm willing to work something out so that you can finance it over a year if that's too much to pay at one point. But I want you to believe that you can afford it. It's the kind of shift that I made in my own business. By believing I could afford the investment, opportunities came to allow me to fund it. So I think that's one of the things that we need to do for ourselves, is commit and believe that we can generate additional revenue by having new skills in our toolkit. The discount code is taxed out 22 for people who are taxed out with doing the work. And that code is valid for 5% across any program. This one and any other ones, it'll take 5% off those prices. And again, if you don't want to do the group thing and you just want to go through and get all the materials, there's over 100 tools you can download and take full advantage of and apply in your business immediately.
Awesome.
But we'd love to have you in the cohort. This is going to be a different group, and we're going to have 5 extra speakers that I add on top of the regular curriculum. And we're going to have, I think, a lot of fun with this one as well. I'm also inviting people who have already completed the training to come back and rejoin as attendees at no charge. So you'll have some fun people back in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at time. So thank you very much. If anybody, did have some questions, just, send them off. I know everybody was kind of typing in there, which was great. And there were no other questions that kind of seemed to come up. So just type them off. Geni, I'll be able to send them out to Geni, or there's her email address. Absolutely. Geni at theimpactfuladvisor.com. Again, recordings and CPD will be out by Friday evening. I hope that you guys, definitely got some information out of this, some confidence, and some value, because that's all we want to do, is continue to add value to everything that we're doing, because we all working together will raise the profession for all. Okay, so thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, David and Sharon Lee, for coming, and thank you, Geni, for all that you do to help support the industry.
Oh, it's just an honor and a pleasure. And thank you all so much for being here. It's just such a treat to work with you and to see you again. Thank you all. Yay.
Awesome. Thank you. And then just to let you know, Geni, the last question was, did anybody want more information? I will send you that list of everybody that said yes, so that you can reach out if they haven't. All right. So thank you, everybody. Have a great week all. Take care.
David. Bye, Tanya.
Bye.